Right, so our next tech talk is by Sarah Cortez. It's on understanding darknets, privacy, and security in tech. Dr. Sarah Lewis Cortez is a principal InfoSec compliance specialist at Cloudflare. She earned her undergraduate degree at Harvard University, studied forensic sciences at Boston University Medical School, and holds a PhD in computer science, cybersecurity from Northeastern University, specializing in the darknet, privacy, and privacy law, as well as IT security, topics on which she has published extensively. She conducts training and research with the FBI, the Alameda County Sheriff's Office Department Digital Forensics and Multimedia Evidence, the FBI, and other LEAs. Please welcome Sarah Cortez.
Okay, great. Good morning, Mountain View. Woo, starting the morning together. Yay. Okay, woohoo. So we're going to cover just a dizzying array of information this morning, and we're going to stop when we stop, wherever we get. So this morning I thought that I would just start things right up with privacy breaches, a little malware reverse engineering, a little password cracking techniques, talk about GDPR and the NISD, legal frameworks from the European Union for protecting privacy and data breaches, and the darknet. So let's go. Let's see.
Should be this. Do you want the slide advance?
Well, to advance the slide.
For
this
slide
one?
advance, you need to plug this into your. You need to plug that in.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
And then sometimes you need to click. Let's see.
Press the key immediately to the right of your shift key.
Actually, that isn't needed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you. Our agenda, oh my goodness. We're going to see what we get through of this morning. We're going to talk about the darknet, privacy, and breaches, a little bit of background, and then we're going to do a deep dive of the Home Depot hack. Anybody here in information security? Any information security technical people? Don't be shy, raise your hand. Not a single hand in the place. So I can pretty much say anything I want. Nobody here will challenge me, know any difference. Perfect, perfect. Okay, we're going to talk about the Home Depot breach settlement. Oh my gosh, one of the most expensive settlements in history. Go over the timeline of the breach, and then we're going to do a deep dive, and we're going to do a technical review of password cracking, just like the password cracking that was done getting into Home Depot. And we're going to do a little darknet acquisition techniques, and finally some point-of-sale RAM malware deconstruction, reverse engineering. We're going to talk a little bit about privacy regulations from the European Union that are coming in to govern these type of privacy breaches. And then if we have time, we're going to dive right into the darknet. So let's go. Okay, privacy breach events. Oh my goodness. Is this the correct presentation? Hold on, let's see. Yeah, it is. Okay. We had replaced this. Let's go ahead. So we have a bunch of privacy breach events. In 2018, we already have a whole bunch of events. Under Armour is the biggest one so far this year. And then I just threw up on the board some of the biggest ones from previous years. Everybody's heard of them. But one that I stuck the Home Depot settlement in here because I don't know if anybody remembers a Home Depot branch. Anybody here shop at Home Depot? Like every week, everybody, all the time. Anybody remember that they were breached? That was like 4 years ago, right? Oh my goodness. But the settlement actually was just signed late last year, and it has some very interesting aspects that we're going to cover in a few minutes. So I threw it in there as well, and a few others to give perspective. Now here's a slide that is a little bit more meaningful, that sort of shows the relative sizes of some recent breaches. Privacy breach events, I call them. People call them data breaches, privacy breaches, the same thing. Basically violating your privacy. So one thing that was unique about the Home Depot data breach settlement, so Home Depot, there were millions and millions of consumers' credit cards and email addresses that were hacked and sold on the darknet, stolen. And it took years for this settlement to wind its way through the courts, through lawsuits and other type of enforcement action. But a unique feature is that for the first time, this settlement featured mandatory darknet monitoring. And why is that? Why would mandatory darknet monitoring be pertinent to the Home Depot breach? Anybody have an idea? Why? What does the darknet have to do with data breaches? Anybody know? Yes?
That's where it was sold.
That's where it was sold, exactly. And actually, that's where it first turned up. So insurance companies and those who are liable for these settlements, who are ending up getting really impacted by the dollar cost, have realized that the first indicators of compromise, IOC, and indicators of attack, IOA, is presence on the darknet. And I put up here a slide that's like an eye test that nobody could possibly read, but it's an illustration of a darknet monitoring tool that I use. It scrapes and searches the darknet. And one thing that I'm not sure, is my mic working here when I walk away from the podium? Doesn't seem like it.
If you want to walk around, then you can grab the...
Grab this one.
grab
Okay,
these
so I'm
mics.
mic'd up here.
Is that long enough? I could get a longer cable if you...
Yeah, I mean, I'm mic'd here, supposedly,
Well,
but
so this one actually just goes to the recorder. This one
All
has
right.
the speakers. Sorry, we...
that's okay.
funny mics.
Well, how should I work this? To press it, or will it just work?
No, just hold it up near your...
Okay, everybody can hear me. So we'll, oh, yeah. Oh, it has its limitations. Here, I'll go over to this side. And the slides have disappeared. Yanked something out by accident?
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll follow the power.
That's the AV guide.
Oh,
You can see what the projector is doing.
happens every time.
Yeah, something must have got up.
Let's see.
Should be getting something. Or, I mean, your laptop fell asleep.
But it's,
Yeah, the laptop fell asleep,
oh, okay.
so.
We'll have to keep it awake.
Would you like a longer mic cable? I can do that.
I mean, that would be great. If
All we have to do...
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.
Is it this side? I think it's
Yeah, it's this side.
sorry.
There you go, 10 feet longer.
Thank you, 10 feet longer, okay. There, we'll go on this side. Right, so what we have here are some credentials from Home Depot. So this is an example of the type of credentials that were actually used to hack Home Depot. And what we're looking at here is live data from the darknet, which are clear text passwords with the email address. This is a dump of email addresses, clear text passwords, and other personally identifying information that you can acquire out on the darknet. And here's the password hash, but we have the clear text password right here that enables hackers to initiate hacks like the Home Depot hack. And here is an example from the darknet of actual live data. Can anybody recognize what this is? Squinting up at this? Credit card data. These are actual live credit cards with CVVs. This is all the information that you need to actually make charges today. So this is an example of information that is readily available out on the darknet today. So if you think that it's not possible for hackers to easily steal your credit card information and use it immediately, this is an example of what's available. There's hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of credit cards live with all of their CVV and other information out on the darknet today. So this is an example of the type of information that is available and that was used by some of the hackers in the Home Depot and a lot of other dumps. Because it's been discovered that the darknet data is a leading indicator of breaches, some organizations have put together an index, and this is a list of companies whose data is present out on the darknet, but which have not yet announced breaches related to this data. So this could be an early indicator of future breaches that will come up. Okay, how'd they do it? That's what we're going to go into this morning, hopefully. So the way the Home Depot hack unrolled is the same way that a lot of hacks unrolled. It started with account acquisition, meaning penetration into the Home Depot's network, which was accomplished by password cracking, which we can do with the tool called Burp Suite, which if anybody's interested, you can go right out on the web right now and download a free edition if you want to follow along. Or even easier, if you can't be bothered going out and cracking passwords, is just going on the darknet and buying accounts and clear text passwords that are readily available out there. So the event starts with the attacker gaining credentials from an outside vendor, generally a large organization like Home Depot or Safeway or any one of the largest retailers that we visit every day. They might be a little harder to hack, but they have partners that they work with. Right, who was the partner? Anyone remember the partner in the Target breach? How did they get into Target system? Anyone remember? Jade. The HVAC contractor, oh my God, you believe that? Their HVAC contractor had a internet connection with Target, and the attackers were able to go in through there. I mean, HVAC contractors, do we think of them as like the leaders in network security? Absolutely not. Do you think they thought of themselves as a major vulnerability? They're like, no big deal. But that's exactly how Target got penetrated, using these type of techniques. So we're going to go down through them. And who's affected by privacy breaches is a cross-section of business representing the employers, many of whom are represented in this room today, and law enforcement, because there's a whole lot of data related to law enforcement and criminal activity out in the darknet, and individuals. Alrighty, any questions so far? Nope, got it. This slide is also a bit of an eye test, but you're not intended to like read the fine print. This essentially is a colorful way to show what the actual content out on the darknet is. By the way, do we have any users of the darknet here? Anyone out on the darknet? Any Tor users here? Anyone admitting to using Tor or knowing what Tor is? Nope. Oh, we have one gentleman here. What do you use on the darknet?
I built the Xbox from Little Brother with my daughter.
Okay.
Just as a teaching project.
That's totally fun and cool. Did you do it on a Raspberry Pi or?
No, we did it on an Xbox.
On an Xbox.
Yeah, so the novel Little Brother has a Tor. Part of the plot is driven by a Tor network running on Xboxes.
Oh, he's got a node running on Xboxes.
And it's open source. You can download the actual project and install it.
Okay. And anybody else that uses Tor? Anyone familiar with Tor? Oh, another hand goes up. Intrepid. Now, what do you use it for?
Oh, whenever I get extremely paranoid, I'll install Tor on my machine and then use it for a couple days until I feel annoyed that it's too slow and then I'll uninstall it.
So would you say you use Tor browser?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is Tor anyway? Tor is like, we hear about Tor, you know, is it a tool? Is it an organization? What is it?
It's a network.
What'd you say? That's exactly.
A network of people that are using Tor.
A network of people that are using Tor. That's a great way to describe it. It's a global worldwide network of about 10,000 relays worldwide that bounces your traffic around and anonymizes you and hides your identity. That's one of Tor's tools. There are actually over 33 tools that Tor uses that has an extensive library. But great, is Tor illegal? Is it illegal to use Tor, do you know? Absolutely not. It's not illegal. How about going on the darknet? Is the darknet illegal? Any ideas? No, it's not illegal. It's not illegal to go on the darknet. It's illegal to commit crimes on the darknet, but just going on the darknet isn't illegal. I ask this question because I do a lot of training with law enforcement, and I've been really surprised to learn over the last year that a lot of members of law enforcement, do we have any members of law enforcement here today? No? I work with them a lot, and it's not exactly clear, unless you're trained, whether going on the darknet is illegal. Because so much criminal activity happens on the darknet, and law enforcement is pursuing criminals who are doing that criminal activity, then using it themselves, which is the only way to learn it, is something that they wonder. So it's not illegal. People use it every day. I use it every day. I use it to read the Washington Post every morning. Go in, fire up Tor, because my subscription lapsed about a month ago and I haven't gotten around to renewing it. So is that illegal? I don't think so. I hope not. Okay, but, oh yes.
Can you just to help us out, tell us what's the difference between the internet and the darknet?
That's definitely. And later on in my presentation, I have like a whole suite of slides about what is the darknet and defining the darknet, explaining the darknet and stuff. Maybe we'll just flip ahead to those slides real quick, because understanding the darknet is kind of critical, and then we'll like flip back. This gives you like a great preview of everything to come. Tor. Darknet fundamentals. What's the darknet? The darknet is an overlay network of the internet. It's an alternative addressing scheme to DNS, and you cannot trace your IP addresses. Tor is also, it's like a lot of things. People have heard of Tor, but Tor is the leading tool on the darknet. It's an online network. It's software. It's actually over 30 different packages. It's a network of people, volunteers worldwide. It's also a nonprofit organization called the Tor Project. It's a research project that was funded by the US Navy in the late 1990s. It's a cryptographic routing protocol, Tor. Anyone know what it stands for? Anyone know what Tor stands for? Yes? The onion router? The onion router, exactly. And why is it called the onion router anyway? What's the onion router? What's that about? Any ideas?
So many layers.
Layers of cryptographic layers. Your traffic is wrapped in layers, cryptographic layers, as it's transmitted through. So it bounces your traffic around and it pushes it through different proxies around the world. Here's a little bit of history of Tor. The onion router was developed by the US Navy, which a lot of people don't realize. That it was funded and built by the US government. And Syverson, Reed, and Goldschlag are the people that invented it and took out the patent for the US Navy. It was originally invented to protect our military, actually. In 2002, the first alpha version was introduced. In 2004, the first large-scale public release. And then in 2006, the Tor project was founded by Dingledine, Mathewson, Lumen, and others. Okay, so we won't go too deeply into this, or we'll never get to the end of this presentation, but here are a bunch of tools that are associated with Tor, not just, but the most famous one is Tor Browser. Here's a little bit more detail for people who are super interested. Here's some fake Tor tools that are not actually Tor, but a lot of people use them, and when they don't work, they call up the Tor project and yell at them. Anyone recognize what this is? Anyone seen this screen before? A few nods around the room. Yes, what is it?
Oh, I don't know. It was like back in college when I was like, I had a project to use the darknet back in the day, and so I just like have a vague memory of this one.
That's right. That's your Tor browser screen. So this is Tor Browser, which is just a browser alternative that protects your identity on the darknet. So when you use Tor Browser, your destination cannot see your IP address. And so it's used worldwide. What are the non-criminal uses of Tor? Anyone know? You were using it in college. Like, what's Tor good for anyway?
I didn't use it for those reasons. Like, literally, the project was learning how to access it, and just kind of go around. I saw things that I never want to see again using the darknet. The Tor project likes to advance the idea that Tor is used to protect political dissidents around the world. You know, it's been funded for years by the US State Department, actually, which is another little known fact, because it supports dissidents in other countries that are fighting for democracy. One famous case is Egypt in 2011. Who was running Egypt in 2011? Anyone remember? Who was that guy anyway?
Jade. Mubarak, oh my gosh, what did he do? He shut down the internet for a week. Remember that? That didn't work out too well for him, did it? The guy landed in jail. He shut it down because of Tor, because people were exfiltrating pictures and videos of violence that was happening in the country, and he was unable to control it. So he just shut down the whole internet. That's when it first started to come to public attention. So the US State Department funds political dissidents around the world and funds Tor for people who are fighting for democracy in countries to use as a privacy-enhancing tool. So privacy-enhancing tools can protect us from government surveillance and other threat models, and it can also be used for criminal activity. So that's a little quick background on Tor. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's see if we can click our way through this to see where we were when we think we were getting ready for some password crackers. Okay. Oh, here's a little bit about my background. Oh, here, what's the darknet? Okay. So this is just a brief slide to show how Tor works. There are many darknets besides Tor. And what this is showing is Alice, a user way on the left, and she's going to a website, Bob. And maybe she doesn't want anyone to know her identity. She doesn't want Bob to know her identity. So the relays in the middle, the devices in the middle represent Tor relays run by volunteers around the world. There are about 10,000 Tor relays around the world. And the Tor project network bounces your traffic through the relays and prevents any one element from knowing your identity on either end. So that's briefly how it works. Okay. This is a little bit about my background. Who am I anyway? Oh my goodness. So I am a principal InfoSec compliance researcher at Cloudflare, of course. I have been in financial services and other regulated industries for years, which is why I have a background in compliance as well. I oversaw Putnam Investments recovery. Putnam Investments, a major asset management company whose data centers were on the 96th to 99th floor of the World Trade Center on 9/11 when it went down, and I was responsible for disaster recovery and recovering them, and that's my employment history, and we already went through my background. Here are some of my publications that I've written in different topics, my online applications, and other stuff I do. I help kids and girls learn how to code, and I work at Alameda County Sheriff's Office. Okay, now to the hack. Home Depot hack. So we talked about this. This is one of the largest breaches in history. It was discovered in September 2014. 56 million customer credit and debit cards and 53 million email addresses. You probably shopped there last week. And so what we have down at the bottom is a screenshot of a Carter site from the Darknet. This is from the Tor project, a hidden service, which is another application. So if you want to buy or sell stolen credit cards, you could just go straight to the Tor project, go to one of these Carter sites, and set up yourself with a name and address. And this one is talking about various dumps that have just been uploaded for sale on the Darknet. Anyone know what stolen credit cards are going for these days? Anyone deeply involved in the underground economy? Any guesses? What do you think your credit card would go for? $1.50 to $3. That's with a valid CVV from a high quality producer. And we're going to look at some of the quality checks that are built into the malware here to make sure that they're stealing high quality credit card information. No bad dumps allowed. So for $1.50 to $3 a card. That's right. They're bought in packs of 10,000. So people who purchase them buy like large volumes, basically. And then they use them on an automated basis to steal your money and steal other people's money. Yeah, surprisingly little. The value has gone down over time as the number of stolen credit cards has gone up. It used to be about $15 to $20 for high quality stolen credit cards. 198 million that Home Depot ended up having to pay in various civil actions and other penalties. And as I mentioned, this settlement is notable because it, for the first time, includes mandatory darknet monitoring. So this is a feature that's coming to the front more often. And so some of you may be involved. Anyone here involved in web app dev or networks? No? Coding? Oh, where are you? What are your responsibilities?
Oh, we do web apps.
Web apps, okay. So I don't know if you think about the darknet when you are doing some of your development.
Maybe not much.
Maybe not much. Maybe you'll find a few things in here that make you think a little bit. Hopefully, might learn a few things that you can apply in your non-criminal activity, during the day or whatever. Okay, and the timeline, this wasn't discovered until September 2014, but later on it was reverse engineered and deconstructed and found to have the breach started in April 2013, about 16 months before. And it started with password cracking or account acquisition from the darknet, meaning getting email addresses and clear text passwords from the darknet, with credentials going through an outside vendor. In July 2013, a zero-day attack, which is, anybody know what a zero-day attack is? Zero-day attack. Hackers are always talking about zero-day attacks. Jade! Perfect, a vulnerability that has not yet been disclosed because it's on the 0th day of its life. And after it's been disclosed, it becomes a vulnerability that was disclosed X number of days ago that everybody is supposed to know about then because it's already been disclosed and publicized. But on 0 day, nobody knows about it. So it's called a 0-day vulnerability or attack. The attackers jumped the barrier. They had penetrated the external vendor system, and then they jumped the barrier into the Home Depot's network system. And that's how they got in to be able to plant malware on point-of-sale systems everywhere at Home Depot. Anybody use the self-checkout system? Anybody use those? Yeah, self-checkouts. Where do you see those things? They're like everywhere, right? Safeway, Home Depot. They're pretty good, right? Like you can go through them faster. They're the targets of all the criminals because they're not actively monitored by humans. And so the real challenge in this type of attack is finding a way to infect those point of sale systems, those devices that we run our credit cards through, with the malware. All of the rest of the aspects of the hack are trivial, basically. And here's a list of a number of ways that the criminals are able to embed that malware. Okay, and then it was discovered in 2014, the malware on self-checkout terminals. This, it's called point-of-sale RAM malware because it was discovered that your credit cards, when you run it through the machine or you stick the chip and pin in, during the brief period of time when it reads your credit card information, oh gosh, they store it in clear text in memory. It's just long enough for criminals to steal it. Now what do you think the developers were thinking when they did that? Nobody will ever steal this stuff. It's just here in memory for a short period of time. Anybody here do any coding of memory or RAM? Anybody think about that? Believe me, if it's there for a short period of time in clear text, it's gone. Criminals will find a way to find it. So this is basically RAM scraping. It's RAM scraping the contents of those point of sale systems during the brief period of time when those credit cards are put through it. It then uses regex to grab payment card information, and they send the captured data to attacker services. And these malware, we're going to see, they have become developed into extremely full service, full functionality little applications. Very neat packages. This is a picture of another darknet site. This is one of my favorite sites. This is Rescator's site, Rescator. So if you're out on tour on the darknet and you're taking a break from your political dissident activities that are the reason why we're all there, or reading the Washington Post, all those legitimate activities we're doing on the darknet, you go to Rescator's site if you want to buy some credit card dumps. Then just to finish up with the timeline, carding was taking place on the darknet both before and after the breach. In September 2014, Brian Krebs, a journalist, noticed that the cards were for sale on the darknet. A number of his hacker friends brought that to his attention, and it was first publicly detected by a journalist, imagine that. And then, but the attack continued. Throughout November 2014, they were out stealing everybody's email addresses afterwards. I mean, they already got your credit card information. What do they want your email address for? Anyone know? What value does an email address have? Yes? Password recovery, that's a good idea. How about phishing attack? You know all those crazy emails? Where did they get your email? They got it from Home Depot's database that stored it, oh my gosh, when you put your credit card in. And then finally, the breached customer data is still out there for sale on the darknet today. Some of the screenshots I just took a few days ago showing you that information. What's our time check here? So we have an idea. 10 minutes, okay. All right, so moving right along here, we're gonna zoom through some of the rest of this. How they did it, password cracking. We're gonna do a little demo of Burp Suite, which is, as I mentioned, a free tool, freely available. It's packaged with Kali Linux, but you can use it to do password cracking. Or like I said, if you're lazy, you can just go out on the darknet and buy these clear text accounts. Anyone seen one of these skimmers? What's a skimmer? Anyone heard of skimmers? Yes.
It's basically a piece that sits over a credit card slide. They do them at banks. There was a whole thing in Seattle, and my daughter, as a minor child, actually got caught up in this and threatened by the police and everything else.
Really?
It was an
That sounds like a
absolute
nightmare.
Nightmare.
Wow.
Yes, very familiar.
So you're very familiar with that.
Yes, I am.
You took one look at that, you knew exactly what that is. You know, when you go into the bank and you use the ATM, and you know, the criminals have been hacking that, so they developed a whole bunch of anti-theft devices to defeat criminals. And they make these little plastic covers. And so what do the criminals do? So skimmers are devices that are attached to point-of-sale devices or bank ATMs that steal your ATM information and password every time you go into the bank or use a point-of-sale terminal. And they're particularly malicious because, you know, if somebody uses your credit card information, it doesn't really hurt you, you know, because you have like a limit on your credit card, like $50. But your ATM, criminals can just wipe out your entire bank account. There's no recourse really to that. So this is a picture of a skimmer. This is actually a skimmer I processed in the crime lab at Alameda County Sheriff's Office. This is an adjudicated case where the skimmer was recovered by law enforcement at a 7-Eleven in San Leandro. There were a number of reports of invalid transactions that were all traced to this one 7-Eleven. So they went in and found this skimmer device on the point of sale. They brought it in and we deconstructed it, and this is a little picture of it before it went into the evidence bag there. Did they catch the criminals? No, not yet. But
They did in my daughter's case.
in your daughter's case, thank goodness.
There's a ring in Seattle area.
That's right. You know, skimmers are based in Anaheim, California. It's a gang that they operate on the weekends, and they get in a plane and fly up and down the corridor on the West Coast every Friday night and spread out and rent cars and implant these on banks and other devices on Friday night. They put a rental car in the parking lot nearby and turn on the Bluetooth device, and they continuously transmit from the ATM to the Bluetooth device. They come back on Monday morning, deattach the device, put it in the car, drive the rental car back, return it, get on the plane, return to Anaheim. Been doing it for 20 years. Amazing. Another way to get your credentials.
That seems like it would make that easy to track. That's a lot of traceable stuff, right? That's plane ticket, rental car, purchase. Right? It seems like that it should be easy to find.
But you know this after.
If they had any idea of where to track, if they had, you know, any idea of where to start. But there's, you know, the reason they do it on the weekends is because there's nobody attending the machines. So there's no, you know, there's no picture of the person that did it. There's no place for police to start.
So aren't there cameras that record at banks?
There are cameras that record at banks, but you know what the skimmer people do is they install their own cameras in the banks, and the banks don't realize that their cameras have been replaced by skimmer cameras. There are a number of famous cases. I don't know if this happened in your daughter's case, but the police come in and they investigate an ATM's been broken into, and they recover the skimmer and they take it out. Weeks later, it occurs to somebody that the camera that's installed there in the ATM booth, "Hey, that's not the bank's camera. What is this camera?" It's the skimmer's camera still sitting up there. They don't even realize it. So they replace those cameras with their own cameras, and they're recording your keystrokes when you're entering your password. People ask me, what's an easy way, or what should we do to try to prevent this? And one of the most important ways to prevent it is to realize that when skimmers are in use, there's a camera in use, and it's filming your, as you touch the touchpad and enter your password. So covering your hand with your other hand while you're doing it is one important way to defeat that. It's not foolproof, but it is. Generally, cameras are embedded in the ceiling or in the device itself directly above the card. Okay. So just zooming right through this, this is a screenshot of a brute force. If you want to brute force hack a website, this shows the steps to use Burp Suite to break into a website. We use DVWA, Damn Vulnerable Web Application. This is a public service application available. You can Google search it anytime and install it yourself. And it's installed to help people learn how to hack and practice hacking. And using Burp Suite, this is a demo of actually importing a word list from the web into Burp Suite, running it through Damn Vulnerable Web App, and oh my gosh, it gets a hit. Oh, admin, the password is password. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's, let's see, quickly running through the last part of this. Point of sale RAM scrapers have all kinds of functionality. They're multi-component, single binary. They have full networking functionality with ability to reach bots, a kill switch, encryption, even development kits that are sold out so you can customize your own. This is an example of some RAM scraper malware, an example of the regex that grab the PCI, and also of how the captured data is sent to attacker servers. They piggyback on other web traffic that's going out. Here's distribution by OS. It's all on Windows servers because that's what the point of sale software is written in. And the RAM scraper family tree, because they're all related. So BlackPaws is the exact malware that was used in the Home Depot hack. And this is a headline I put about how Home Depot ignored security warnings for years because they had a motto there. Anybody know Home Depot's headquarters motto? For years, they told security personnel, we don't need to invest in security. We don't need to do that because why? We sell hammers. That's what they told their security staff. Get over it. We don't need to invest in all your expensive measures that you're recommending. We just sell hammers. Nobody's going to hack us. Here is a screenshot of their custom search function of the actual code deconstructed, and you can follow through. And this is some actual BlackPaws credit card data output. Decibel is a very similar example that's a VB script. Most of these are coded in C, C++, and generally use data exfiltration piggybacking on HTTP post, which is great because it's so efficient. HTTP post requests are not cached, they're not saved in history, and they have no restrictions on data length. So they're perfect to evade detection. Any web developers might want to be thinking about that in their web development. Who's piggybacking on it? So the RAM scraper starts up, it looks for sandboxing and reverse engineering tools, it installs itself in user profile, and then it retrieves the name of any anti-malware solutions. So here's a first screenshot of Decibel checking for the presence of debugging tools. Too small for anybody to see, but if you got the slides, you could follow through on the. And this is Decibel auditing infected systems to check what's installed on it and see if there's any malware. Detection systems, anti-malware solutions. Here's the next screenshot of it looking for anti-malware solutions. Oh, there are none, they're good to go. If there is anti-malware, it actually shuts down, terminates itself, deinstalls itself, and exits. So think about that. There's no anti-malware present on those devices. They finally inspect all the running processes using one of the methods, and then they execute inside a do-while loop. They have built-in blacklists of the processes. So what they do is they basically follow all the threads in memory, all the heaps, all the running processes. And they have blacklists of processes that do not contain the track 1 and 2 credit card data. So they just zero in on those processes that grab and read the track 1 and 2 data to be more efficient. If a process current running is not on the blacklist, it opens the process object and reads the contents of the memory. And here's an example of the actual code that's doing that. This is for the track 2 credit card data. And finally, they match track 1 and 2 credit card data on the tracks. They have a built-in validation method to make sure they're collecting high quality correct information. And then they exfiltrate that data using HTTP headers, piggybacking. And here's a copy of the code doing that, basically. So, to wrap up, here was their motto: we sell hammers. And that's our talk. I'm going to stop right there. Any questions? No? Anyone going to Home Depot this weekend? Safeway? Maybe go in the checkout line with the actual person. Okay. Thanks a lot.